Imagine yourself on the stage. You're looking at the audience. They're looking at you. They're hanging on your every word. You are reaching them, connecting with them. They're hanging on to your stories. More important, they're remembering the key concepts you're delivering. You are a professional speaker. Now, that is the dream of a lot of people. A lot of other people said, "Oh, I'm afraid of speaking. That's the worst thing. I would never want to do that." Well, you're not a bad person if that's your belief, but many people, including yours truly, we love to speak. We love the attention. We love the limelight, and we love helping people. Our guest today is an internationally renowned expert on helping you get on stage, getting gigs, building your business through speaking. She is the founder of Get Speaking Gigs Now and the CEO of the International Speaker Network. She's the author of Get Speaking Gigs Now, and she's got all sorts of tips on how to really build a business that involves speaking, professional speaking. It's my pleasure to invite to the stage Leisa Reid. Leisa, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. So excited to be here.
We're glad to have you not only on YouTube and TikTok and FaceTime and FaceTime, Facebook, all the others, but especially here on Amazon Live, where if people want your book, they don't have to put it on a to-do list or drive down to a certain bookstore. With one click, they can get it right now. Depending on whether you are on a cell phone, a tablet, a computer, you're going to see in the carousel on the left side, bottom, right side, the click for the book, Get Speaking Gigs Now. So if you hear anything you like about the book, why wait? When I hear something that I think is going to help my business, build me business, help me in any way, I just try to get it right away and don't even think about it these days. Because I do believe you've got to keep investing in yourself, especially in a business like speaking. You've got to be up on every trend. Leisa, tell us, we're going to come back to the book, but tell us briefly what the book is about and how it's going to benefit someone who's hoping to get more speaking gigs.
Right. Well, I'll start by telling a story because we were talking about this earlier. About 10 years ago, I started speaking and I had zero speaking gigs, zero clients, zero email list. I didn't have an opt in. So, ground zero. And my first year, I booked 83 speaking engagements in my local area. And I started a network, which is now called the International Speaker Network, because I thought I want to hang out with other people who can help me and who I can help too. And what I wasn't expecting was for the people in the network to consistently ask me, "How did you get booked? What did you do? How can you help me? Can I pick your brain?" Right. So I knew there was some kind of gap in the industry. Like there's all these people, like you said, TJ, there's all these people who want to start speaking or want to speak more. I mean, what speaker doesn't want a microphone, right? Like we all want to have that microphone. But how do they get it? That was the trick. So when it came to creating my company, I thought, I think this is it. It's not about how to be a better speaker. It's how do you actually get the gigs. And so in the book, I outline the 7 different strategies I use when I really narrowed it down. Like what strategies would someone really need to consider if they wanted to get booked and stay booked for their entire career? And that's what's in the book.
Walk us through the transition of speaking, even paying someone to listen to you versus speaking for free versus getting paid. I know back when I was active in the National Speakers Association, there was always this divide where a lot of the old timers would say, if you're a professional, never speak for free. You've got to charge. And if you don't charge $5,000, you're demeaning yourself. And others say, hey, the best way to get speaking gigs is to be a great speaker and someone there to know what you are paid says, hey, you got to come speak to my group, and then you charge. Where do you fall on that line?
I am probably a disruptor in this conversation because I know that there's been in the past that divide. It's kind of like people arguing over a Mac or PC. I'm like, I don't know what computer works best for you and what you're trying to do. So I think of it as it's actually a chapter in the book and it's a module in my online curriculum. I call it monetize your speaking. And a keynote speaker fee is one way to monetize your speaking. It is not the only way. And I've made thousands and thousands of dollars in a room of 10 people who are ideal prospects for me. I've seen my clients do the same. And in that room, they did not have a speaker fee budget, right? Am I going to turn that away? No, because it's in line with what I do for my business and in line with my mission to serve more people and help more people. It's not about the speaker fee. I think sometimes people get hung up on the speaker fee because they want that guarantee. We like guarantees. We want to like make sure we get our money, right? And it takes the pressure off you. You're like, well, I already got paid, so I can do, I don't have that pressure of having to make money. But if you could suspend that belief for just a second, think like, well, if you have something that's really valuable for people to offer and you're in the right room, it's probably going to work out. Like it's a good bet on yourself. So it, that depends on the person's risk, comfort. But
I agree with you completely.
agree.
There's a lot of different ways of
Yeah.
making money. I always ask aspiring speakers, who makes more money? This speaker who gets $25,000 every speech, or this lawyer who speaks for free but picks up 3 clients who pay $100,000 a
Yeah.
year?
So that's what I mean. Like, it's just like, instead of doing it how you think it's supposed to be done, this is where, and you would ask me earlier, like, what should we talk about that I don't usually talk about? And it's your intuition, your own inner guide. What feels right for you and why? And get really clear on that, because after you're done working with me, if someone works with me, they're on their own. They got to, like, my goal is that you have a clear yes and a clear no, because you are constantly going to be berated with opportunities. And it's important to know, is this a good opportunity for me? Or is this one I say, no, I don't think so, I'm going to pass on that because that's not in line with what I'm trying to do. And that goes for paid speaking where you're waiving your fee, speaking where you might be have an opportunity to pay for it, like you are the one who's paying. That might be a great opportunity for you as well, or not. This is where we all have to get really clear on our own yeses and nos.
We're speaking with Leisa Reid. She's the author of Get Speaking Gigs Now. And Leisa, we want to be respectful to our Amazon audience.
Of course.
You don't go to Amazon just to sort of shoot the breeze and listen to people talk. You're going to buy. That's why I go to Amazon. You're looking for that information that helps you decide this book or this book. I'm a fan of Alan Weiss's $1 Million Speaking, but it was written now, a quarter century ago. Your book is much more recent, and perhaps people should have both on their shelf. But tell us more specifically about how people get value from your book. Who is it designed to help right now?
It's designed to help an entrepreneur or business owner, small business owner, who really feels called to speak, and you want to use that model to grow your business. So, for example, you might be a coach or a consultant, and you just get a lot of excitement out of speaking to an audience and maybe teaching them something or sharing something really valuable, but you're not really sure, how do you put that all together? How do you create that machine? And that's what who the book is for.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And Mohammed is saying he's very interested. And Mohammed, if you have a particular question for Leisa, let her know. Leisa, I want you to rip me apart now. I'm being very sincere. I want to tell you the advice I give to people. I think you're going to say something different. And I want you to tell me where I'm wrong. Everyone has strengths and weaknesses and certain biases. I've been speaking at some level or not professionally, whether it's hosting shows or whatever, since 1984. That's when I did my first training. So I've been at it a while. Went to the National Speakers Association in the early 90s, was president of the National Speakers Association New York chapter, 15 years ago. So I've seen a lot of changes in the industry. So way back in the day, someone wanted to be a speaker. You said, okay, put together a one sheet, figure out what you want, mail it to every Rotary Club in your town, knock on doors, beg to speak for free, have some kind of freebie at the end to try to collect people's business cards, follow up with them and ask them if you can speak to their group. And over time, it can build, and you can build a professional business. And then you can take that video of that and send it to speaker bureaus, and then you can call speaker bureaus all day long. What I have told people in the last 7 years or so is that model's completely broken. The people I see who are most successful it's speaking and everything else. The people who seem to have the most fun speak in social media. They build significant followings. Doesn't have to be as large as Gary Vaynerchuk, but they figure out some core aspect, some niche, something they're passionate about. It could be on Twitter, it could be on LinkedIn, but they are creating content almost daily. They're creating video where people see them speak, and they amass significant audiences. And that is the far and away the best way to get the phone to ring for you, to call you. Gary Vaynerchuk does not have to cold call anyone to get a speaking gig.
Right.
He's got to have someone just answer the phone to say no to the 99 out of 100 people who can't afford his $200,000 fee. So my advice is, if you want to be a professional speaker on the stage, speak every day in front of one of these, build a community, and then your own fans will want to recommend you, hire you. And the number one thing most conferences want these days is someone with some name ID who, if they announced Gary Vaynerchuk is speaking at our event, boom, another 500 people are willing to pay the $1,000 fee because they want to come hear you speak. So I tell people, don't waste time on the speaking for free if it involves traveling somewhere. I'd much rather you make 5 videos and share it with the whole world and build a social media following. Don't waste time calling speaker bureaus. If you have to reach out to them, almost by definition, they don't want you for the most part. So that's what I tell aspiring speakers is, there used to be a time when the only way to speak was to beg to talk to the Rotary Club. Now anyone can speak to the whole world. Mr. Beast speaks to hundreds of millions of people, and he doesn't have to knock on a speaker bureau or have some gatekeeper come after them. It's this whole concept of, don't worry about the gatekeepers. Speak to an audience in the technology of the moment, which is not a live stage. It's a video camera. Then the gigs will come to you. I apologize. That's a very long question. I'm going to be quiet, and I want to hear from you why I'm wrong and what you think the better strategy is.
Well, I think that this comes back to a conversation you and I had earlier about cookie cutters, right? If I suggest an idea to my client that they would hate and they would just be miserable doing, they will not do it. So I am much more of a fan of finding what suits you, what strategy is going to suit that individual that's going to help them get to that next step of where they want to go. There might be people who heard your advice, which is working great for you because you're great on video and you love speaking. You've been doing it for so long, right? You're not at the beginning of your speaking career. So for you, you're like, well, rather than get on a plane, I want to build up my YouTube channel. I want to go live on all the platforms, and I love speaking and I want to do it every day. That works perfectly for you. For someone else, it might be super intimidating. Maybe the tech is too out of reach for them, or they just don't know what to say. So again, it's not that one strategy is bad and the other one's good. It's more of like really finding the one that you're going to do and you're going to do consistently, right? Not just a flash in the pan. Sure, you could go live one day. Is that going to make a difference? No. You need to build it up regularly. So I think it's important that, especially as entrepreneurs, when you have your whole day, just have this white calendar, this blank space. What am I going to do with my day? I had a client ask me that. She was like, I don't know how to organize my day now that I'm an entrepreneur. Too much white space. We do nothing. So it is important to have, okay, these are the activities I'm going to do on a daily basis, or these are I'm going to do on a weekly basis. This is what's going to help me with getting clients. What's going to help me get clients? Oh, going and speaking, those kind of things. Now, I'm going to share something with you that I don't know if you're going to believe me or not, but I haven't cold called for speaking in 9 years. Okay. Because I hang around other speakers and I create deep relationships with other speakers. And those deep, just a few relationships have saved me from cold calling for years. And I still speak 50 times a year. Ish, it's ranged from.
Well, I definitely believe you that you don't cold call, because I don't even receive cold calls anymore.
Yeah, we don't,
Unless
or
it's
cold emails
automated.
or whatever.
I can't imagine how anyone could do it, because I mean,
There's still people doing it. There's still people like
my phone,
emailing.
I don't think it's even possible for someone to cold call me because I've got a spam filter for calls. It just instantly goes to voicemail.
Well, I mean like
So,
cold email or like, let's say Google searching. Like say you Google search down a
yeah.
rabbit hole, right? You put in I want to, where can I go speak? Right. And you just start Google searching in rabbit hole, rabbit hole, rabbit hole. You're there for 2 hours. You've got nothing. You maybe found an application that you read through for 20 minutes and filled it out
Mhm.
and then never heard back. That is not usually that's what I call a soul sucking activity as a person who loves to speak and gets excited about being, transforming people's lives. That you'll give up real quick after a few of those, right? That's just not an ideal why we get into this business. So that's one of the reasons we created the International Speaker Network is like hang out with other people who are trying to do something similar as you and create relationships so that you can
Yeah.
build each other up. And I think it's a little bit more of a here you had said give you give you a different opinion. If we were to compare, it's a little bit more of a feminine approach. A lot of the examples you said are more masculine approaches. They're not wrong. There's not a wrong or right, but it's just a different way. And I work with a lot of really soul filling type, purpose driven women. I work with men too, but usually it's just a little bit more heart centered than like likes and clicks and this and that. And so it's a little bit of a different approach.
Mhm. Right. I mean, I would point out a lot of the role models I'm thinking of on who are huge YouTube stars are women. I mean,
Yeah.
certainly there's bias in the world. I'm not suggesting there's not sexual bias in the world, but there are a tremendous number of women who have millions, tens of millions, maybe
Absolutely.
not Mr. Beast, but tens of millions of followers
Absolutely.
and subscribers who then have big speaking businesses
Mhm.
around it as well. So it brings up a tough issue. We live in a world where there are no gatekeepers. Anyone can be a TV network. Anyone can start a podcast and be a radio network. Anyone can be an author these days. You don't have to spend 2 years banging on doors of
Right.
HarperCollins and major publishers. But because of that, because there's no gatekeepers, it's very hard for most people to figure out a strategy because you could spend 22 hours a day
Yeah.
following up on LinkedIn and polishing a new demo video and reaching out to all your prospects, starting a new newsletter. There's almost an infinite number of ways you can market yourself as a speaker, do things that arguably are productive, and 6 months later, maybe you've made $0. How do you help people really figure out a strategy when they don't necessarily have a strong base yet?
Mhm. Yeah, again, it's sometimes you might have to do a little quote unquote cold calling in the beginning if you don't have a strong network. These days, I remember I don't know how many years ago, 15, 20 years ago, you'd say like, "Oh, most people know 300 people." Well, now with our social media accounts, we know way more than 300 or access way more than 300 people typically. And most adults are on some social media network. So, we have a network. I think what happens is that people don't know how to utilize their network. Some people are naturally gifted at seeing those opportunities and some people just really they're like, I don't know what do I do? Just spam everybody or like email? No. So what we'll do is we'll figure out how do you work with what you have when you have it? And then you just build upon the strategy after that. So say you have zero speaking engagement like me, I started with ground zero. Okay, what's my first step? What's the thing that's going to help me the most? When I work with people in the first 30 days, we do the get your talk ready to rock session. In that session, they have their call to action, their learning points, their description of their talk, and the title of the talk. So they know what they're going to be doing. And I call that a product on the shelf because now you can say really proudly and shout it from the rooftops, I'm a speaker and I speak on X, right? I speak on this thing. And that can help you all of a sudden get booked, even when you don't even have one slide created. Like they don't need to know that. You can create the slides. I mean, be good if you had it all ready to go, but you don't need that to get booked. And then another speaking engagement can happen from that speaking engagement. So it's that domino effect. But how do you start to figure out where you're going to be speaking? that's unique as well. What's your history? What's your background? What's your personality? What kind of speaking avatar do you want to have? Like, I have a client who speaks English and Spanish, and he is very passionate about Hispanic business. So he was like, let's look at that angle. So he speaks to universities and organizations for business, but also for Hispanic business. And he's spoken internationally and all up and down the coast uh, for Hispanic business owners and business associations, because that's something he's excited about. So that's one avenue that's an example of how you can get really specific on where you're looking.
The book is Get Speaking Gigs Now. It's available right now on this page if you're with us on Amazon. We're on Amazon Live as well as a number of other platforms, and you can get the book. If you're watching us from another platform, you can see the link to Amazon right now and go ahead and purchase the book. Available in hardback or in paper, in digital. Is it available? The audiobook available?
It's audio, yeah. So it's available on Audible, and I don't have a Kindle version, but we have the Audible version and the paperback version on Amazon.
Great. So be sure to check that out. Lisa, when I was at the active in the National Speakers Association New York chapter, I mean, here we are in New York City, a lot of successful media personalities, authors. Arguably, there's more highly paid professional speakers in New York City than any place in the world. But they tended to be, if you're an anchor on CNN, if you're Anderson Cooper, you make a lot of money speaking.
Yeah.
But that's 1/100th of what you think about in a typical month because you're so busy with other things. You got a speaker bureau to handle all that details for you. These were not the workaday speakers. What I found was in an organization like the National Speakers Association, and there's pros too. So many people who came and said they were a professional speaker, once I talked to them, they don't actually give speeches. They are therapists or consultants or salespeople who want to be speaking. So everyone is trying to pick each other's brain, trying to get leads, and no one had actually done any speaking. So I'm wondering, how do you judge when you're meeting with someone and people in your speakers network? How do you, not in a snobby way, obviously, but how do you really figure out who has enough here to add value where they've done it versus just people in the aspirational mode? And there's nothing wrong with being aspirational, but if everyone is there in the aspirational mode, it's very hard for people to bring each other up.
I think of it as kids on the playground, like at recess, right? And you don't need to play with every kid on the playground, but you need to have a couple good friends. So why not put yourself in a situation where there's a bunch of people that you might potentially play with, and you just find your couple. I think a lot of times people think you need to know everyone and do all the things and and we were trained like that a long time ago, like give all your cards to everybody and get everyone's information and all that. And I think it's different now. I think utilizing your intuition again of say you're in a virtual meeting and you can see all the little boxes on the Zoom, right? Who do you feel like you would really want to connect with? Who's floating your boat? What are they saying that sounds like it would be really helpful for you? And like, for example, in the International Speaker Network, we talk a lot about your ideal audience. Who's your ideal audience? What's your topic? What's your speaking avatar? Are you speaking virtually? Are you speaking in person? Are you doing paid? Are you doing waiving your fee? Are you pay to play? Are you going for summits, podcasts? And getting to know what your fellow networkers are focusing on, that will help you determine, okay, this person I want to chat with, this person I want to chat with. I can tell pretty quickly if somebody is a seasoned speaker or just at the beginning. And like I said, it starts off with, oh, well, what do you speak about? And if they say, oh, I'm working on my talk, or, oh, I can speak on anything, I know they're at the beginning of their journey, and that's totally fine. But if they say, oh, I just got back from, Minneapolis and I was speaking at a conference, and next week I'm going to this place, or I have a virtual show that I give, I'm a podcaster. I'm like, okay, now we're laying some track and sort of see where you're playing, right? And that's very common.
To me, professional speaking is a broad term, and I certainly think of part of my professional speaking is speaking in online courses. What I like about online courses, there's no gatekeeper. If I can just create, you have an online course. I want to hear more about your course and also about how hard you stress, if at all, to your clients that, hey, you need to have an online course because it's another way of speaking. It's another practice. It's the ultimate sort of demo reel in some respects. So tell us your philosophy of online courses as it relates to professional speaking.
I don't have a super strong opinion about online courses. I have my own, and it was so that I wouldn't get in the way of anyone's learning speed. Like I want you to be able to watch this at 2 o'clock in the morning if that's or
Mhm.
4 o'clock in the morning. Any time zone that you're in, I want you to be able to have access to that information, so that when you and I are together, we're talking about really like the deeper stuff. Like, okay, how do I apply that to me and my business? That's the conversation that's really valuable. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs are like feeling stuck and alone. Like they watch the course and then they're like, okay, but I don't know how to, I got stuck on this part. Like that's why I'm here. So that's just for
And
that
do
part.
you bundle your course with the consulting services or with membership in the International Speaker Network, or do you sell it on its own?
I do both. I sell it on its own. And then I also, for my speakers training academy, they get access to the course as well as access to me and masterminding and other access, so that that way my whole thing is no speaker left behind. Like I don't want you stuck in the station not moving. We got to keep you moving so that you can go out there and help more people. In terms of referring my clients or recommending my clients have online courses, I think that's a separate issue. Like, just, I don't know about you, with working with entrepreneurs, we all have a whole bunch of things cooking on the stove, right? But we only have 4 burners. So, like, how are we going to do this? How are we, what are we going to focus on? How do we build the Roman Empire? And I just say, we're going to just build it one house at a time. And your speaking is probably a house, right? And then if you want to have a podcast, then that's a house or an online course. Okay. But we don't need to do all the things all the time, all at once. We need to decide what's going to bring us the cash the most quickly.
Leisa Reid summed it up quite nicely. Again, the book is Get Speaking Gigs Now. Can they find out more information about your course, your consulting, your program at getspeakinggigsnow.com? Is
Absolutely.
that really the best place?
Yes. And you can look at the Speaker Training Academy there.
Great. And you're on LinkedIn, all social media. We've posted those links. And those of you seeing this perhaps on demand on later on Amazon, the book is available. You see it right there in the carousel. One click and you can get it. Leisa Reid, thank you for being our guest today. Take care.
Thank you.